Yeah, there you go. There you go. Oh, all right.
My
Okay.
bad.
So yeah, we're just kind of getting started right now. It is 4 o'clock. We're gonna get like a little bit, just a debrief on introductions first. I wanted to kind of get started on the panelists. I'd like you guys to introduce yourselves. Just let us know like a little bit about yourselves and like, you know, I guess what you guys do for creative like works and media and anything you have going on right now would be also right now. So yeah, kind of. If we want to, maybe we can get started first with the online panelists. Just introduce yourself. Start with you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm Angelo. Hi guys, I'm Gino Villanueva. I'm an actor in LA. Moved out here from Illinois in a small town called South Elgin. And yeah, I've been here about like 13 years and have just been acting and I'm learning how to write. And I, yes,
He was on Beef.
I, yes, I was on Beef season 2, episode 4. I played the male Filipino nurse. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a meme, y'all. That's achieve that. That's incredible. Yeah, my name is Janairo. I'm a writer director from LA. I was born in Novaliches in Quezon City in Manila. Yeah, and I am formerly a documentary.
Hi everybody, my name is Eli Villongco. I'm a Filipino martial artist out in Long Beach and Torrington, basically all of the South Bay. I'm also a stunt coordinator for small productions. We got one coming up with one of the moderators. But yeah, that's what I do.
Everyone, I'm Nathan Cayanan. I am a writer and illustrator. Wrote for DC Comics and independent book called Suspicious Activity. It's being raffled off today. I actually used to be, I'm currently a professor. I used to actually teach here for a while, up until 2022. I'm glad to be back. Hi, I'm Angelo. I publish books from the Philippines. It's a thing called Hot Tropiks. If you like comics, come check us out. He's being super humble right now. But I'm also a producer. I have a movie on Netflix. You guys want to check it out? It's called Love at First Street. And actually, no, dude. Like, I just really focus right now on finding really cool stuff from the Philippines and just sharing like cool stuff that I find from the diaspora back and bringing it back here. That's really what I'm focused on. Let's have Emmy go.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Ebony Soy. I'm an artist and a writer. Uh, Actually, I was born in Japan from military parents, and I was also a veteran in the Air Force. Also curated my first, or co-curated my second community art show with 1111 Projects out in Van Nuys.
And we're also raffling her book off today too.
Oh yeah.
Emmy, go ahead.
All right, hi y'all. I'm Emmie, and I'm an actor based in LA. I'm born and raised Southern California all my life. I started off doing theater, musical theater when I started pursuing my career. And then these days I focus on TV and film. I'm in the middle of my first video game ever. Fingers crossed it'll be out by the end of this year, maybe early next year. So that's involved. I really love when it also involves a lot of physicality. So anytime I can do a little stunt work in there, that's really exciting. Fight choreography, all that stuff. I have background in dance as well. And what else? I'm working on getting into more voiceover work and yeah, excited to be here.
Ashley.
Hi, I'm Rachanee Lumayno, part Filipino, if you couldn't tell by the background. This is my he's my like in-booth director. So I'm an actress, voiceover artist, video game writer, fantasy novelist, cat mom. I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, I'm originally from Michigan. I'm here in LA. I've been here now since 2010 and gotta love this town and so excited to be part of this panel. So
All right, can we get a round of applause for all of you? Yeah, thanks. For sure. Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. As you guys can see, we have a large variety of artists, um, comic book artists, filmmakers, actors. We're very packed today, so it's just very exciting. Please have some questions ready for the Q&A at the end. And yeah, if you did sign in, there's a sign sheet outside for the raffle later. Okay, so let's get started. I think our first question will be, how did you guys begin pursuing a creative career? How did you get started, and how did being of an Asian American identity affect your experience breaking in? So that'll be a question for everyone. Whoever wants to go first.
Sure.
Yeah.
I gotta say I wasn't really an actor to begin with. I did a lot of like 2D art drawing and then like just drawing since I was like 2, 3 as old as I can hold a pencil. And one day in middle school, my mom's like, "What are you gonna do with all your art?" And she's like, "You got to go into the medical field, go into nursing or something in that field." And I was like, "Okay." And in high school, I took a what is it? Like health ox class, and we watched the first episode of Grey's Anatomy, and I'm like, I like that. So after that, I did more theater in high school, did a little bit in college, and just got my associates over there, and then moved over here right away. And then I've been here ever since. I think when I moved out here in 2013, there was not that much Filipino projects or like just even Filipino centered stories as much as there is now. Like it's popping up everywhere, including like the Pit and St. Denis Medical, and then putting like a Filipino nurse in Beef. So over the time, it's grown. But yeah, I think slowly but surely there'll be more. I'm a little nervous, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Gino. Yeah.
That's a great answer. Yeah, so I actually had a very similar journey. I went to school to be pre-med. So I actually have a neuroscience degree. And then I joined a production company my senior year just to fill out like my kind of credits. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what I want to do. And it also helped that I was really bad at being pre-med. So bad. I worked at a rat lab, didn't care about any of it, would mess up experiments. I would just play with the rats. Like go on interviews and they'd be like, "So, what makes you so passionate about this field?" And I'd be like, But and it also helped that I graduated and like basically the only people like literally to survive, only places that would hire me were places where I could write scripts. So I knew that I at least had like a kind of uh I had at least some kind of talent for it. And then when I moved down to San Diego, it really helped is I became an organizer and I would document political rallies and videos, set it to music. So I was almost like making my own music videos and just practiced from there. I would say like I know logically that things have like really, really changed in terms of like representation. Like we're seeing stories that we're not seeing before. But what's been really lucky for me is I went and I sought out the spaces, like I sought out Filipino film collective in San Diego. I was around other like Filipino artists. So while I knew what the state of the world was, like I was always around other artists who were telling our story. But really, it's only been recently that the things that we were making, things that I were making, have been more accepted into the mainstream. So it's been really different. So yeah.
So I was born and raised here. I initially started wanting to just be an actor at first. But then I walked by this one spot one day, literally in my neighborhood. I'm like senior year of high school. I have no idea where I'm going after. And I walk by and it says Filipino martial arts, and I didn't know we had that. So Literally that night when classes were on, I walked in. I met my Guru Alvin. He was talking to me about Filipino martial arts, a little bit about the history that he grew up on. And from there, I started training. Trained for about a year. 6 months in, I asked for a job because when you're 17 years old, fresh out of high school, your parents are expecting you to get a job at the very least, if you're not really doing anything. And I asked him for one. Then he started coaching me and started teaching me how to teach, essentially. Um, and then I don't know if you were around for 2019 or 2020, but a little thing called the big sickness hit the U.S. So after that, yeah, I just spent every day training at home, and then my Guru Alvin was gracious enough to let me use his space at Kamanakali to train just on my own, and we had to navigate through both COVID and then uh, how the world was adapting just to the way things are now. Because supposedly everything's different. I wouldn't know, but yeah. What was the other half of the question? I'm sorry.
It was how has being AAPI affected your experience breaking into your field?
Yeah, I would say I haven't really even been indoctrinated into the culture as much as I am now. Like I knew, like if you were to ask me 6 years ago what I knew about Filipino culture, it would be little to nothing. Just just the way things were back then, and like even now, I'm still learning a lot of different things that I didn't even know were a thing. So yeah, yeah, I mean, as I'm growing now, because I would argue I'm still relatively early in my journey in terms of being a Filipino artist or Asian American. I'm still learning about a lot of new things, and to your point, yeah, there's a lot of new stories popping up, which is really cool to see because I didn't grow up with that. At most, we grew up with what Dante Bosco in as Rufio and Hook and like Zuko and Avatar. So yeah, it's cool to see a lot of Filipino artists pop up now. So.
Uh, well, I got started. Actually, I had a lot of false starts. I went to school for writing. Went to film school, and even got my master's in fiction and creative writing. But I was too afraid to pursue it, and I actually, at the same time, got teaching jobs. And I was quite good at it for a while. And you find something you're good at, and you find security there. You stick with it. But then something called, I guess, the big sickness is what we call it, happened, and teaching became really bad. We had a few educators here who can attest to that. It was really difficult. My career stalled quite a bit. I actually went back to school to get an MBA because I was planning to get out of teaching. So I felt like I failed at two careers. I didn't pursue my passion, and the thing I was supposedly good at was not going well. And but during the my MBA program, there was something called the Milestone Initiative through the DC Comics imprint, and it was a talent development program. I applied and somehow got in, and since then I've been very privileged to do some work with DC Comics. It's actually one of the reasons why one of the other panelists is here. Emmie is here because she played a character that I got to write in the comics, Dr. Light, Kimi Hoshi, and Emmie played the Dr. Light character in The Flash. And we actually had our first signing on Saturday. It went pretty well, so it was pretty cool. Since then too, I got to work with Angelo. He'll tell you everything in a second. And hopefully the progress does not stop.
I guess, yeah. So for me, like, so I spent almost the last 20 years in the Philippines. I had just moved back to the U.S. in 2023 and end of 23, beginning of 24. And so over there, when everyone's Filipino, it's just stories, right? But when you get over here, just like what I was noticing, that was the content that was making it to the U.S. There was a lot of it was, just kind of like the resilience kind of stories or the struggle kind of stories that we made it. But I was working with comics in the Philippines. I was like, yo, we have way more stories than that, but none of this really cool underground stuff was making it over. And so I decided, like, hey man, if nobody's gonna promote that, like, I would just love to be that conduit. And I guess my first project was actually for the diaspora. We did a we did a book called Cuento Monster Anthology, where it was all the Filipinos, but there was like Filipino Canadians, Filipino Australians, Filipino Europeans, Middle East Filipinos, Filipino Australian, and we were all living in the Philippines, and we all built this thing together. So that's kind of what my calling was, like, hey, the Filipino story is larger than just like a Filipino American story. We have a really crazy, like, like just just for whatever, like our diaspora, like all our different experiences, really unique, and that I wanted to come here and share that.
Awesome. And then we can just kind of go in introductory like order. So I believe it was Ebony that introduced themselves first online. So we can go from there and then, yeah.
Cool. Okay, so like I said, I come from a military family. My dad's side, it's all military. My mom's side, all medical. I end up going into the Air Force right out of high school, into healthcare management. So I end up combining both worlds. Something I really felt like, well, okay, I'm just continuing, family tradition, but I still always had that passion for writing and drawing, ever since high school. But again, they always say, family's like, no, what are you going to do with that? So, okay. So while I was in the military, I did all of that. I did, drawings on the side for my units and like t-shirts, parties, whatnot. So I never lost that passion. It was kind of, it's sidetracked. But when I got out of the military, 12 years later, did social work, worked with kids, also dealing with like art therapy. I realized like, okay, I want to pursue art and writing even more. Then I had like some few big life changes and decided, hey, I'm going to just pursue art, because if I'm going to be on my deathbed, I want to be able, I say I don't regret anything. So here I am, writing, drawing. Angelo is my publisher for my book, Malolas. So having fun with that. That's it.
Okay, for me, I went to undergrad. When I was applying, I wasn't decided yet of what I wanted to major in. So I was going to certain schools, kind of strategizing of like, I'm going to audition for the dance major here. I'm going to go for undeclared here and for the theater program here. So that was kind of spread out because I loved all those things, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to focus on. And I figured if I just get into a school that I like, then I can go from there. You can always kind of, I figured you could change your mind if you need to. So I had some options that came up, and I decided to go. I chose to go to UCLA, where I had auditioned for the dance program. And at the time, it was under the World Arts and Cultures major. And you can choose either the dance concentration or the cultural studies concentration. Ooh, I see that. That's all right. My dad was a USC graduate school and UCLA undergrad, so I'm half. I feel like I'm half. But yeah, so I was in the dance program there, and that was a big focus on learning a lot of different cultures and their dances, and martial arts and a variety, which is really cool, and a big focus on choreography. And the creative process, I think it was really, really empowering to be in a program that was all about creating. And I realized in high school, I also had a lot of opportunities to create and choreograph. So I find looking back, I'm really grateful for that. But at the time, I got really, really jaded about it. I felt like nothing that I make is original, so what's the point? And what do I have to say that no one else has said yet? And so I kind of got jaded at that point, and I also really missed acting. I would choreograph things and end up wanting to incorporate like words and different aspects. So I thought I'd add a little bit of acting back into my life, added that in as a minor, and did a sociology major. And what I ended up loving about that is it is so broad, and it gave me kind of a broader look at studying the world and a way to look at the world that I think has continued to feed how I study and try to grow as an actor and as a person in the world. So in the end, I'm glad I went that direction. When I graduated, I was pretty decided that I wanted to pursue being an actor. Also happy to dance as well in the meantime. And what I had access to at that point, I knew about backstage.com. It still exists. I don't know how much it's used these days, but through backstage.com, I knew I had access to smaller projects, student films, and a lot of theater productions, musical theater, plays. And so I went that route, as well as one of my ballet teachers growing up. She had a connection through Chapman University. She knew an agent who was a print agent at a brand model and talent in Orange County. And so I started off auditioning for and working in primarily musical theater productions. I think I got started with some student films and indie films, and print jobs. So like lifestyle modeling or kind of print commercial work. So that was my start. And the big problem I ran into for theater, especially back then, because this is many, many moons ago, many years ago, and I think it's gotten better since then, but at the time, there was such a limited number of roles for Asian actors. So once I had done Miss Saigon, I had done The King and I had done, the ones that were out there. And then you have the productions where there's the one token Asian character, and we're all auditioning for that one character. And so after a while, that gets frustrating, and I wanted to work on more original works and not just, what are they called? But basically, the original choreography from the Broadway production, that's really cool. But eventually, I also wanted to be part of the creation process. So that's really what pushed me to look more into TV and film. So I think over time, even in the theater space, it has improved, but it feels like it's still very overwhelmingly a white, a white environment. Although it's improved, it's still, I think, got a long ways to go. TV and film at that point was already, in my eyes, more diverse and so helpful for finding roles. And I think that's improved a lot too. I am concerned about these recent few years, that it feels like, well, couple of years, I guess, where it feels like there's a very scary slipping back very quickly. And so I think it'll be interesting and scary to kind of see the numbers as they come out of how the representation is going now, and where that's going from here, and how many projects are going to be embraced in this day and age. Yeah, that's been my experience so far.
I'm laughing at what Emmie's saying because your experiences parallel mine quite a bit. So I'm originally from Michigan, and I always loved like musical theater and acting, but it was kind of very similar. It's a very white area, and our director was very proud of real world casting, which meant I was, like the potted plant in the corner or something like that. Talent be damned, who cares, right? You don't have Asians on stage, right? And I also am joining the ranks of people who got a degree and didn't use it because I went into photojournalism, and I was like, cool, I'm going to work for National Geographic. And then newspapers and stuff started dying. So I wasn't really able to find a job. And I went into Christian music, of all things, spent several years on the road touring in that circuit. And again, nobody looked like me. Like I could look around at a music conference and be like, okay, that person's in Christian music, that person's, rock and roll, that person's punk. If you were Asian, you were classical music. And then there was me. Like I would play churches and they're like, who is this person? Like, what's going on? So it was a very like eclectic experience. So I came out to LA thinking I would do music, and the music scene out here is very different than the rest of the country. So I got into acting because I was like, well, what else am I going to do? Right. And when I got here, kind of the same thing in Michigan, where people really only knew if you're Asian, you're Chinese, or you're Japanese. They would always ask me that, what are you? Are you Chinese or Japanese? I'm like, I'm Thai Filipino, I came out here and it was the same thing with casting, where they're like, we want Asian. And I'm like, I'm Asian. And they're like, no, we want Korean, Chinese, or Japanese. And you're like, there's other flavors of Asian. Like Asia's really big, but they just didn't really think about like, I don't know, Vietnamese or Burmese or Filipino or whatever, they just didn't think about that for a really long time. So every time I did on camera, I would go in under ethnically ambiguous. And since I don't speak any other languages fluently besides English, it kind of made it hard to pick other lanes. Like I had mentors who told me like pretend to be Spanish or pretend to be Indian or whatever you can fake, because like they just can't recognize other things besides Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. And then when are we calling it the big sick now? The big sickness? When the big sickness hit, I pivoted into voiceover.
Yeah.
The Big Sickness, yeah. The Big Sick is that movie. So I pivoted into voiceover, which was really freeing because they can't see my face, so I can be whatever, any race, any age, boy, girl, whatever you need me to be. And I fell into video game writing, and I really I've always been a writer, journalism. It was nice to get back to those roots because again, race doesn't matter there. So video game writing, fantasy novels, which is kind of where I'm at now, and still the voiceover. I do think we've come a long way with the on-camera stuff. I agree with you, Emmie. I think we are kind of pivoting a little bit, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it's nice to see that they recognize that it's a big world and that there's nuances to every continent. So here's hoping that we don't slide too far back.
Thank you guys so much. We're going to move on to the next question. And coming from someone who's kind of just hearing your guys' stories, have had a similar experience, like someone who was kind of on the traditional path and fell into like the creative like space, and like that's really what I wanted to do career-wise. I wanted to ask what are some of the aspects of your ethnic identity or your culture that like and the experiences you've had? Like how have you been using that to like put that into your work, and how do you kind of integrate your identity there? And just start from thank you.
I think when I first on the camera started out, I didn't really integrate being Filipino in my art. I think it was until recently where I just felt this burning passion to just speak Tagalog in my work, or be part of other people like Jill. She made a film called Vic and His Nane in 2024, and I was able to be part of the cast. That's also how I met Riley, and just tell like a Filipino-centered story. Although I didn't get to speak Tagalog in it, like it made me very, very hopeful in doing more Filipino work. Oh my goodness, I think I'm off the tangent. What was it?
Yeah, just yet. How have your experiences kind of informed your work?
Inform my work?
Yeah.
Well, since there hasn't been really that much, creating is something that I have so lately dabbled into. I think in 2023, I made like a little reel thing, a whole bunch of us creatives, part of Filipino Actors Barkada, that was formed by Denise Cabanella, JP Tadena, Zed Restaro. We just kind of got together, got some film equipment, and brought in like 10 3-page scenes. And in mine, I really wanted to speak Tagalog because I had nothing on my reel since 2013. And I picked a scene from Skeleton Twins to just, what's that word? Transcribe, and then just like kind of translate it into Tagalog. And we filmed that, and my scene partner was Joy Haven, and it was really nice. It's on my Instagram. But I think overall it just made me more hungry to do more work. And me, in my case, there's a lot of Filipino Americans that aren't able to speak Tagalog, and I'm lucky to have been able to learn growing up because my parents took away the cable and just put in TFC right away when I was like 7. And so growing up with like all of the teleseries mula sa puso, maalala mo kaya, like I was lucky enough to be able to learn. I think, yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm just yearning to do more, as an artist and growing.
That's so great. Okay, I'm actually gonna come in here. It's very great to hear like that you're creating your own opportunities, right? Because we're hearing a lot about how we've been stereotyped and how there's no like we can't count on other people to tell our stories for us. We have to come in with our own stuff. And it's so great that you've been able to create, that project with your friends and also how I met Joe with Vic and his Nanai. I'm actually gonna add another aspect to this question. Vic and his Nanai specifically was about um, Vic, whose mother had passed away because she was a frontline healthcare worker during the Big Sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't gimmicky. You didn't mention anything like, lumpia or anything surface level. So if I could just add another aspect to this question, how do you bring your culture into these spaces without making it feel very surface level or gimmicky, like kind of Filipino baiting, sort of? That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, now you make it harder when you're going to me. But no, I'm joking. But no, and I think this is down to what Angelo has like said. By the way, I bought all my copies of Colbo from you. But so yeah, I mean, part of it is like being lucky enough to grow up part of the time in the Philippines and just coming here to America and being really excited to see like Dante Bosco and other Philam works like the debut. But then I also, when I started to consume more, I did notice this pattern, which is a lot of the times, maybe in short films, the Filipino migrants are kind of the parents, like are kind of treated as, the conservative, socially backward, like, not very supportive of creative endeavors. Like, this is our culture, conservative, and it didn't really, and even as parents are like CDS supporters, like they're the most conservative anti, like, and I still felt like, okay, even if this is my lived experience, it's not the lived experience of every Filipino I know, every Film I know. So I think it was for me, the way I kind of incorporated that into my work is like this mission of like showing the vast rainbow of what it means to be Filipino, right? And fighting against like, and not that I'm saying that like there's something of like bad representation. Representation is good, but in what ways can we push that? And in what ways can we also honor like the little scene stories even amongst us, like working class Filipinos, right? Are we only expecting to only see the crazy rich Asians form of like Filipinos as like being the only things being worthy to see in um, American mainstream, right? So I think what I would say is in terms of not making it gimmicky, it's like really connecting to your Filipino roots, not just Philam, but Filipino roots. And like it doesn't mean you have to learn like Tagalog overnight. Trust me, I speak Taglish. I get made fun of by the
Nobody
accent.
in the Philippines even speaks straight Tagalog. Nobody
No,
can.
no. I remember being a kid and being like, "What's the Tagalog word for broom?" And my grandma's like, "I'm gonna hate you." Like, what are they teaching you at this school? I'm like, English. We're only allowed to speak English at the school. Like, which is true. You get sometimes fined, right? And that's a holdover from American colonialism. Just they justify that now by being, anyways. They like so. I would say in the Philippines, there's already so much pressure to be Americanized. So I think one thing you can do to ensure that you're not creating work that flattens like our identity is to reconnect with what being Filipino truly is. And it's not just lumpia or lechon, which are foods that we only really eat at parties, Like it's like looking at the different regions, like finding out what it means to be Cebuano, what it means to be Visayan, queer Filipinos, rich Filipinos, like all like Filipinos from all walks of life, like because it is like really beautiful, like and I think that's what allowed me to really do that story, right? It was like, in what way can I? You already know what types of Filipinos are right there in media, so try to think of like how can I challenge that, and that's one way you can do it because their stories are worth telling.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll kind of move forward a little bit, and I also did kind of have like I guess an industry question for Angelo specifically. I like have you noticed any like kind of shifts in like what the audience is looking for within like comics and literature, and what trends have you kind of been seeing, and how have you guys been adapting to them?
I guess when we first started, it's like I don't think like I grew up in the U.S., but like I said, I spent the last 20 years. But I never knew that what the Philippines' impact on comics was in the U.S. Like in the 70s with the whole Filipino invasion, where DC Comics was bringing a lot of artists from the Philippines over to the U.S. to work on U.S. comics, like Conan and the Barbarian, like Swamp Thing. Even what's that Guardians of the Galaxy? What's the main guy there?
Star-Lord?
Star-Lord. He's created by a Filipino. Yeah, like from the Philippines. Yeah. And so when I brought those over here, I think when I first did like I met Ricky were the first thing, and you and Ebony was our first pop up. A lot of people were like just flipping out that there was these crazy stories that were coming from the Philippines. But even for me, like I was just like just in shock that like when I first encountered these stories, I guess Trece was kind of like the first gateway drug where like I was like Netflix is adapting a Filipino comic, and then when I read it and I just went deeper and deeper, I was like, oh my gosh, like like Trece, like if you read the comic book, it's even more. It's like the Netflix series just doesn't go deep into it. It's like it's not really a spoiler alert, but if you follow Trece, the ultimate bad person on Trece is Imelda Marcos. She's the leader of the Aqua.
What?
But then this she's called it Madame, right? And then they work in all this like Philippine pop culture, like in there where it's like the Tikbalans are the Lords of the Lightning, and then they are the Ayala family, which controls the electric company, which also controls ABS-CBN, which is the TFC. And then one of them was like a friend of mine's actual brother. Like she's the Gokongwei family, and apparently she has a brother who was a snake that lives underneath the Robinson's Galleria, and that made it into the comic book. And actually, it made it into the cartoon too. So that's what I'm saying. Like this, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can geek out over comics. What was the other stuff you want to talk about? All sorts of like this is what I get hyped up about.
I guess. Yeah, I guess in that vein, what goes into deciding like what creative works to platform within like because you founded Hot Tropiks, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what kind of goes into deciding what creative works you want to platform?
So that's what I'm saying, the diversity in our story. So it's like with Nathan, like when I first met him, he's like, "Hey, I'm working on a gangster story about San Gabriel Valley, like gangsters." I'm like, "Dude, I know those guys, but I've never read a story about them other than like with Fast and Furious One. It's probably the closest thing." Yeah. But like, come on, dude, that's great. Yeah, it's the thing I can think of. But like, that, and then when Ebony's book, she's like, "Yo, I'm writing about this book that was like this, I guess former demon that's out for revenge, is making people kneel and bow down." Was that what it was? Yeah. Work by Arnold where he's doing like romantic comedies where it's just like, so I mean, like Philippines is like that art of artwork is like Manila is a character in the book, but it's not you could it's almost like it's not an overly Filipino thing. It's like a romantic comedy where it's like I think anybody could relate to it, and those are the kind of stories that I like to platform, which is like Pinoy sci-fi. We have crazy stories of like ancient myths. But like the Aquans are aliens, and they're all different alien races. Like mid space, you gotta check that out too. But, yeah, I can talk about comics all day. I don't want to take too much.
Riley? I have another question, maybe for our movie. Yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, I'll move to Eli.
Oh, hi.
The big stick. What's up?
Catching on. No, it's kind of a funny tangent, but a YouTuber that I follow called it the big Justin Timberlake concert for some reason. Yeah, they referred to it as that. But anyway, hi.
I'm gonna ask my question now.
Okay. Hi.
We worked together. We met working on my short film,
Yeah.
Career Riot, which hopes to highlight Filipino martial arts
Yeah.
specifically. I just wanted to ask, as someone who's both an actor and a colleague in martial arts, like Kuya. Sorry, I meant to say teacher. What's the word? Yeah. How do you hope? What's the history you see of Kali in Hollywood, and how do you hope to see it evolve?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Yeah, because not really a hot take because it happens, but Kali has always been in Hollywood. It's just never been highlighted. And even then, they wouldn't call it Kali. They called it stuff like they just called it Filipino martial arts, putting it under that blanket, taking away the name. It wasn't until recently where people really started looking, and I would probably argue it really started with Star Wars, to be honest, because one of our martial artists coming out of the Inosanto Academy over in Marina del Rey, Lauren Mary Kim, she's a martial artist out in LA, and she really started promoting Filipino martial arts and putting it into Star Wars. If you know Ahsoka Tano, everybody knows that character. He did the motion capture for her. He does all the stunts for her. They call her when they need Ahsoka Tano stuff now. But even then, it's starting to evolve a lot more. Very proud to say Diana Lee Inosanto, who's Guru Dan's daughter, is in plays the magistrate in Ahsoka as well. Yeah, no, Filipino martial arts has always been in Hollywood. And it wasn't really until Star Wars and a lot of other space stuff like Dune. We talk about Dune all the time over where I train at because my teacher actually helped out a lot with training Timothy Chalamet and the others on that movie. And they started getting into the logistics, the style, it's Belinda walk, it's a specific style of martial art, and all of a sudden Belinda walk's trending when people are really only scratching the surface. I'm only scratching the surface right now. There's so many different types of Filipino martial arts. It's about as wide, if not wider, than kung fu, And you see all these people raving about kung fu. It's oh, here's tiger style and here's dragon style. We have that in Filipino martial arts. There is Walintawak, there's the Listrismos, there's the combo system, and right now I'm trying to. My goal, at least, and how I see it going in Hollywood, is that more people are paying attention to it. More people are very much, they want to learn, they're yearning for more. Because I know I was when I first started. And people are really seeing our shit for the first time and being oh shit, that's dope. Where I see it going is that Hollywood's really looking at the Filipinos right now, and I'm very excited to be there when that happens. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Thank you, Eli.
Yeah, so I just also wanted to mention we are kind of coming to about 20 minutes of our section of moderated questions. We did not forget about any of our beautiful people on the Zoom call right now. I did have a question actually for Ebony, because I used to shop over in Oahu, the Other Realms comic shop, and it was really cool to do a little bit of background research. And I just wanted to ask, what was the process of getting your comic? I believe it's Malololes.
Mololes.
Mololes, my bad. How do you get that onto the store shelf, and how do you think that short story kind of spoke with the residents or the locals in Oahu specifically?
Oh goodness. Okay, so fun story with that. So before I actually put out my first ashcan with Other Realms, I was doing artwork that got represented at Mark's Garage, the art gallery that's there in Chinatown. And one of the people that worked there noticed my work, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that looks like it could be turned into a comic. Let me introduce you to the godfather of comic on Hawaii, and his name is Sam Campos. So I ended up meeting him. He created Pineapple Man. He was like, "Oh my gosh, are you gonna like turn your work into a comic?" And I was like, "You know what? I'm thinking about it, but I didn't know at the time how much work had to be put into it, because when I met him, I had a year left on Oahu before moving back to California. So I'm like, okay, do I even have enough time to like pack and do all of this and create something? And Sam was all like, go, just do it, whatever. We'll just go with it. So it was like maybe 28 pages, about 28 pages long. It was my first Ashcan, and I frequent other realms because I love comics. I love games, tabletop games. So they already know me. And so when I went in, I pitched to them and I was like, hey, I'm actually coming out with an Ashcan. Would it be cool if like, is there a way I can have it out here for the community? And they were totally open to it. They have other local artists that they like to present, because they're proud. They're like, yes, we want to show people from our island, just show them off and see like, hey, there's all this talent here. So luckily I got my Ashcan put out there, Maloles. I think I only made like 50 of them. So whoever got it, good for you. I found it when I was moving back here, and like I was like, wow, it changed a lot from 2022 until now. I used a lot of profanity in my first Ashcan. So literally you open it up, it's all in your face. So and I think other Filipinos out in the community, they were surprised that I was getting in, like, I wrote something inspired by Filipino mythology, by the headhunter tribes of northern Luzon. So a lot of people had no idea, like, there were headhunters in the Philippines. And I took like little aspects of that and, put it into the comic. So it's they were all cool. They were like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like we get to learn that there's all these other things, and there's a Filipino, Panay drawing. And yeah, so it was cool. They opened their arms, they welcomed me out there. So it was nice.
Thank you. That's so sick. Riley, if you want to ask another question.
Oh yeah. If I could actually rapid fire with the actors, real quick. I just want to ask, like, what specific roles or experiences have stuck out to you as AAPI performers in either a positive or a negative way?
One small announcement. There is like an end of the year celebration for prize scholars at the SAC. DJ wanted me to tell all of you so that if you guys want free food, you guys can do that. So just let you know.
Okay, I hope that was enough time for you guys to prepare your answers.
Actually have Emmie and Rachanee answer that question.
Yeah, start with Emmie.
Will you say that one more time, the question?
Yeah, what roles or experiences have stuck out to you as an AAPI performer in a positive or a negative light?
I would say one positive that comes to mind was an episode I was on for the morning show on Apple TV Plus, and it was a scene that I had with Greta Lee's character in the series, and I think it really, without trying to spoil it, but I feel like it rode a fine line where in the wrong hands it could become really kind of exploitative or demeaning, or it could go wrong, so I felt like it was a sensitive situation, but on the page, what I read, it felt like it was being handled very sensitively, just from the way that it was describing the shots that they had in mind. And on set, what was really unique is that the director and the showrunner, they communicated with Greta and through Greta with me to talk to us about what we thought about the moment. And they talked about alternate endings of the scene, and they wanted our input actually. And also kudos to Greta for like also including me in the conversation. And just the fact that, I'm in there for one day for this one episode, and to have them care enough to get our perspective And I did feel like it was a scene where it was really there was a lot of nuance based on being Asian American, and being in that world was like talking to basically these white middle-aged male advertising execs. And so the power play there and the nuances there, and to um, really get it right of like what Greta's character is going through. So just the fact that they wanted our input and asked us what we were comfortable with, what we thought about that ending, what this alternative ending, that was really powerful for me to experience. And I don't know how often that happens. It was certainly very unique for me to have that level of input um, in that one moment. So yeah, that was a real highlight for me. I'm trying to think of like a particular negative. Particular negative. I think there's always a fear as an Asian actor of what am I taking on, because I'm limited to the information that I'm privy to. And so, how is this actually being treated when you look at the whole piece? I just have this one moment and I don't know really how they're going to handle it in the editing room, etc. So, there's always the fear that it's going to be mishandled. And there are moments where it might be something like there was an indie film early on where there was no plan for like any nudity, anything like that. But just on the day of, they're like, you know what, we need to show more skin. And that was really the only reason. It had nothing to do with the plot, nothing to further the character or anything. And I'm really proud that I fought for myself to be like, I'm not okay with that. And like, there's no reason for showing skin here. So I was like, you can shoot me from here up, but like and it was useless because that did nothing for them. And I feel like I there's a sort of sense of responsibility to represent and like be protective, I think. Um that moment wasn't specifically about being an Asian actor or an Asian character. Um but I did feel a sort of, I think, not just for myself, but there's a sense of representing and wanting to do right by our community that, I want to do a good job at it, but it's always kind of a tricky thing to try to find to see if I'm doing the right thing. So yeah, that's what comes to mind for me.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you. And then I actually did have a targeted question over for Rachanee. Asked how much of yourself went into creating and developing the characters for your series Kingdom Legacy, and like, was there any input or like inspiration from your ethnic background when it comes to any of your characters, any of the world building?
Oh, that's a good question. The first character was actually based off a Dungeons and Dragons character I never got to play. Um, the one nice thing about fantasy is like I don't think about race because it's more about like, why are we caring about white, black, Asian when we can have orcs and goblins and whatever, you know what I mean? But one thing that I found really interesting, I really wanted so there's 7 books in that series. I really wanted an Indian looking man for book 2. And that was hard for my cover artist to find. And I wanted a black woman for book 5. And she had a hard time finding that. And we did find an Asian man for book 6, which was nice. But it was amazing how little representation there was in the stock photography. Because it wasn't her fault. She had her resources, but just trying to find diverse representation for the covers was like, where are these people? And in fact, we had to source outside of her, I forget who she uses, like Adobe stock photos or something. My editor actually had to go find the cover photo for book 2 because we couldn't find it within her resources. It was really weird.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any questions you might have?
I mean, Gino, if you wanted to visit back to the experience as an AAPI performer, a positive one.
Did you want me to? I can.
But yeah, for sure. Who would like to go first? Let's start with Rachanee. Yeah. Rachanee, yeah.
Sure, I'll go negative to positive. How's that?
Yeah.
Early on in my career, I remembered doing one of those many reenactment shows. I don't know if they're still popular, but that was like everyone's bread and butter, that or like CSI, right? To cut your teeth on as an actor. And we were, is this thing being streamed on YouTube? Please edit this out. No, it's been so long, maybe they forgot. But we were supposed to be playing manicurists. And I'm Filipino. The lady I'm working with was like Chinese or something. And they wanted us, like, the stereotypical, you're at a nail salon and like they're all speaking in their native language and it's about you, right? They wanted us to converse in an Asian language. I'm like, you do realize we can't converse because we don't speak the same language and I don't even know anything besides English. They're like, oh, just make stuff up. So I basically swore. I was like, Susma, you said, because I don't know what to say and they're not checking it. But it was definitely one of those like, guys, we've come a long way. That was over 10 years ago. I hope we've come a long way. Positive by accident. I got a voiceover gig during the Big Sick and I didn't realize the magnitude of it. I just was like, sure, like it was a favor to a friend. I'm like, sure, I'll do it. Why not? And I remember driving to another set or whatever, and the person I worked for pinged me on my phone, and they're like, "Hey, this project you're in, check it out. It just went live today." And I look, and it was for the band BTS, the Korean, the K-pop band BTS. The gentleman had all done solo albums, and so it was for J-Hope, his album Jack in the Box, and it had just released, and it had gone platinum. And I was the narrator on the first track. And I didn't realize that it was for his album. And I was like, holy smokes. And I'm watching the numbers go up. And I sat on it for a year. I didn't know what to do with that information. And then finally I posted about it on my Instagram. And the amount of people that came out of the woodwork and were like, oh, that's you. I listen to your voice. I listen to that album all the time. I fall asleep listening to you. Thank you for being a part of my world. I was like, this is why we do this. You know what I mean? Like, it's something to me, I was just like, oh yeah, it's a job. But they were like, this means a lot to me. And so that's probably been one of the best experiences I've ever had.
We're on a VCS track.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, going back.
They're coming.
See you next week.
Yeah, positive or negative experience and being in say it again.
Being an AAPI performer. Any roles or skits that really
Yeah.
stick out to you?
I think there really hasn't been much that has stuck out, but recently, as a person who usually leans on people pleasing, I have learned to say no. So this is positive, negative. Over my time, I've gotten like auditions for different like ethnicities, like Thai or Cambodian, or I get Latino a lot, and recently I've been getting Latino dad. But I've learned how to say no to them. I think in the beginning I would give it a try. I would also like put in the notes like I'm actually Filipino. But yeah, do leave that information what you will. I think just when you try to do something that you're not, I did something for NCIS one time, and it's for a high character, and like you could research all you want, but if it's not you, it's not going to be you. And I was so embarrassed to send it, but I didn't want to decline. And so this was like way early on in 2014, and I've been saying no a lot more since then. And it's shifted from different kinds of like Asian ethnicities to Latino characters, and yeah, I think you just have to just know when to say no, and I've been doing that a lot more now. So positive, negative.
That's so real. Yeah, like as an actor, I feel like there's not a lot for us anyways, so it kind of feels like our only option is to go in different routes of like playing different ethnicities, and it's so like it feels so wrong.
Yeah.
But it's also like some of the only things that we feel that we have access to. So just being able to like create our own stuff and only play like what we are, like how I feel as it should be. That's been very empowering. Yeah, so I can relate to that.
Thanks, Riley.
Angelo has a question.
Yeah, what's up?
No, I was just kind of asking, like, from what you were saying, like, how do you guys feel about like being told to do Filipino accents? Like, it's like that was the one thing that made, but back to Trete, that one thing that made Trete, the Netflix series, really hard to watch was they asked the Filipino American actors to speak in Filipino accents, and it was kind of like very, very awkward. Some of them sounded Latino.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, have you guys ever been like offered for, like a role like that?
Or even Asian accent, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there was that one audition, right? And, but I think in terms of doing like a Filipino accent, unless it's like super integral to the character,
Yeah, but
and there's this weird line that you don't want to cross because you don't want it to come off comedic just to sound funny. You want to, as an actor, you want to just embody this character, like, and be as genuine as you can be. And I haven't really experienced much with having to submit to something that requires a Filipino accent. But I can't. I mean, have you gotten any any projects?
I haven't had to audition for a project where I was required to do a Filipino accent at all. To be honest with you. Then again, I have been kind of in and out of the acting game for a couple years now. But yeah, that there was another part to that question, wasn't there?
yeah, no, it was just kind of like what you guys were talking about, but it was like always like being like just hey, you do an Asian, but also being as a Filipino, hey, talk like a Filipino, like yeah, like that ever happened? How would you react to that point?
Yeah, I mean,
Like Rashid, you have like kind of tap in on that a little bit, but yeah, that was it.
Maybe
Rashid.
Yeah.
I was going to say, can I just jump in on this? So I do a lot of audiobook work. And one thing I found really fascinating when I was being trained by my mentor, who was amazing, she was like, you know what, if you do any English speaking, like Scottish, Irish, Britain, any Britain dialect, Australian, and of course, any of the US dialects, you have to be perfect. But anywhere else in the world, the listener doesn't care as much. And I thought that was very fascinating because obviously, like in every country, there's a bazillion, even in the Philippines, right? Every island has their own like tweak on the language and like their own like dialect and way of like putting things together. So to them, they would be able to hear the differentiation in a Filipino like accent, but like the rest of the world isn't paying attention. I thought that was very fascinating. So that's just my thoughts on that.
Very good insight. See here. So we're kind of coming up on time. I guess we'll kind of just let it bleed into our next section here. I did want to just kind of open up the floor and let anyone of our guests here speak and ask questions to the panel in the Q&A section. So please feel free if you guys have any questions. Shout them out. Pull up the chat here.
Yes, Rick.
I turned my moderator panelist right on.
Other question?
I guess it's kind of like a broad question, but what piece of advice would you guys give to like a aspiring creative or someone who just doesn't know how to get their foot in the door but wants to? To anyone.
I think it started like when I came to the US back in 2023, 24, I didn't know anybody. I just started. I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. And it's basically just go out there, do a lot of IRL events. Most of my connections happened because I went out and like I met him at a basketball gymnasium. Ebony just went to our pop up in Long Beach, and actually, yeah, Emmie met us through our pop up at Manila Sound, and that's how they connected.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so just put your work out there and go out and meet people. I think that's the best way to go about it.
I can answer this too. So, what was the question again? What tips would you give?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. If your question is how do you make a living off of this, probably not really any good answers to that. It's difficult, but I think what people think is that in order to do art or anything creative, you have to make a living off of it. And I don't believe that. I think you can do this no matter what. I mean, in fact, after today's event, there's the ear.
Yeah, the ear.
Yeah, they have the ear. The magazine here that they're publishing students' work, short stories and all that. It's not like they're Barnes Noble or whatever, right? But they're doing it, and because they have stories to tell, they want to express themselves. You don't need to get a six-figure salary or a 401k to do that. There are avenues to do it. You know, you could do it on social media, but if you do want to take it up to the next level and make a living off of it, yeah, what Angelo said, you're going to put yourself out there in any way you can. Go to the conventions, put up a table, print your own book, sell it, and it's going to be incremental. It's going to be painful too, because you're going to see a lot of failure. This is something that most, I think if anyone says to you that if you just do it, it's going to be easy because you're talented or whatnot, they're lying to you. It's hard. Many talented people, they see a lot of dry spells, and it takes a long time for them to succeed. Even the people that I've met who are very successful at this, at DC Comics, they have they have their peaks, and then they have their very dry spells for a long time. You don't see their names for a long time, but they keep at it because it's like they're mentally ill. You know, important. You got to be crazy. But at the end of the day, you do it no matter what. And if you're doing it because you want the 401k or salary or fame, probably don't do it. Do it because of the
I'll add on to that with what Nathan is saying. Depending on what field you're trying to get into, look at the professional organizations that are doing that, right? Like if you're a writer, what kind of writer are you? Are you a horror writer, a sci-fi writer? Look for organizations. There are organizations out there. Like if you write horror, San Diego, LA, they have chapters. And if you join those associations, they usually have mentorship programs. So professional aspect, look for those types of things in the field that you want to work with. And if you're getting into the acting field, directing field, cinematography field, there are programs through the guilds. So you can also start there. And then the other two parts are community organizations. A lot of us have met through community events that like ended up becoming 1 degree of separation because we ran into each other somewhere and just had a conversation. So that's still important. And there's a lot of media nonprofits out there that are still trying to support the works, not just of Filipinos, but all BIPOC people. So take advantage of those, look for those, seek them out.
Yeah, on that, a lot of my opportunities came from specifically submitting my work to Filipino organizations. So the reason, a lot of almost every single one of my short films and music videos really came because I was submitting it to a Filipino artist org or a women's artist org or an immigrant org. And the other thing too, attend their events, attend their workshops, and don't be afraid to ask people about genuine advice about how you can better your craft, because art is not about creating the most sincere expression of yourself as much. A lot of it is how can you make that resonate to an audience who is completely different than you, or to a large group of people. And the only way you can do that is you practice your craft, and you can't practice your craft in a vacuum. So really reach out to your mentors, your heroes, people who are a little bit higher up in the field than you. I doubt any of them will turn down a chance to sit down with you and explain how to improve your work, how to get better, how to give it to an entire, introduce it to a whole new audience. Because the truth is, with social media and with our phone, and this applies for everybody, there's no excuse to not make something and put it out there. You literally have an audience that's ready to go, and you're you can always make something to put out there. But for traditional media also, hit up the people who you really look up to are making the things you want to make, and figure out how can I make it like that, and how can I if you don't know how to make something the way you want it to, there's an Ira Glass quote of sometimes art tastes are a little bit ahead of what we can do right now. Keep practicing until you can. because that doesn't mean that you can't. It just means that you're not there yet, but you need to do the work to do that. But know that there are people who are happy to help you. I'm happy to help you. Because all of us would not be here if it wasn't for someone else in the industry or in the field you want to go into, reaching back and being like, yeah, I want to pay it forward.
I guess to kind of bounce off that, I did kind of have a question. Like, how have you kind of, and anyone else can jump in on this question, just how going into like this creative field and like it's so taxing, really, when you put like so much of sometimes yourself and like your work out there and like it's just not being seen, or you're really just trying to work hard at something and it's not working out. How, like, what are ways that you guys have been able to protect your mental health and set boundaries and like sustain your practice long term? That's kind of strange, but if anyone just wants to jump in,
I call Nathan and Ebony and complain to them all the time.
Let's ask Ebony this. A very good person to ask about mental health.
Okay. Okay. Actually, I limit like my social media. You could only find me on Instagram, nowhere else. And I changed up to where it's only straight art, gallery work, my book, events. Nothing personal, because I don't need people to know what's happening in my life. I don't need people who don't know what's happening in my life try to be nosy, get in my DMs and ask all of this. And I'm just like, no, I'm over it. So I limit that interaction on via social media. And when I do events, I usually, like, when I get home, I just turn off everything. I seclude myself. I hermit, turn into a goblin for like a good week afterwards to like de-stress. And then if I have anything, I'll hop into the group chat with Nathan and Angelo ranting about stuff like this, like, for example, I had with this opening for this art exhibit, I definitely was ranting a lot. And it's nice to have them kind of just sit back and let me do that, and they're open to that, and they'll tell me what's up, and then I'm good. So it's nice to just limit social media, limit interaction with people, and have your good circle of friends to be able to connect with when you need to just vent and talk. Yep, that's it.
Can I add to it?
You also a DC person.
Hey, I wanted to say just because it's not always spoken about in Filipino American circles and people of color anyway. Therapy. There's nothing wrong with therapy. I mean, look, first time I told my mom when I was in therapy, she said, "What? What are you telling them?" I was like,
"What are you telling them?"
I'm telling them everything, Mom. So therapy is important, but sometimes you need to start there before you can start with your friend group. But that support system, as a creative, you can't do it in a vacuum. You can't do it in a vacuum. You need those people around you to be able to talk to.
Could we close by just having everyone share just one last thing before we close?
Yeah. We'll just kind of again go from our introductory order. We'll any closing statements you guys would like to make.
Okay. I'll add to what was said. I think over the time I've been an actor, I've learned to just let go of whenever I send in a tape. It doesn't really do you service to just kind of ruminate on, oh, I could have done this, or I could have made this choice. You just kind of do the best you can at that very moment, and then let it go. I feel like when I really, really do that, that's when callbacks come, or another audition from the same casting director. Just going back to the things that you love. I love video games. I love playing League of Legends. Streaming on Twitch. you know, just doing what makes you happy in between those tapes that you got to do as an actor. But yeah, going back to your question, take the first step. You know, I got up and moved out of Illinois to move here just to begin my acting career, and sometimes that's all you got to do. Yeah.
Figure out what you can make the best with the resources that you have. Like sometimes you got to work, but sometimes like not having the resources of the big large format camera, a budget, like sometimes like that can be a gift in itself. So figure out like what can I make that's good with my iPhone? What can I make that's good with a like a camcorder, right? And figure out what other people have done when they had literally like nothing. But you will have collaborators, like you have like friends, and you have people who I bet you would take time to like help you out because they care about helping people like you, right? So yeah, like know that whatever that you make now isn't like the finality of like your skill and your craft. It's like you're just getting started. So what can you do right now? Like and make it your best with like whatever these resources are. And understanding, it's not gonna be like a 50K short or something. But I can make something pretty cool and then I can make something else that's really cool. And I can keep doing that and sustain myself because I didn't burn myself out. But yeah, I mean that work is out there.
I guess going back to the therapy question a little bit, it helps that my therapy is that I move and I hit things. But on a real note, keeping yourself mentally like stable it's a challenge. We all know that as artists. But another comment there is just fall into it. Keep doing it every day. More of my teachers just become so excellent they can't ignore you, man. What I tell my students, what I tell my kids, be loud and proud about who you are and what you represent, because there's a lot of we're popping up, like we're coming up in the world. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we got a lot of really good artists here today, and I'm very proud to be among all of you. I still don't know why I'm here. No, I'm kidding. But no, on the real note, it's really interesting to grow up and see the world change in real time. So
I'll just finish with this, and it just connects with what we're doing here. So find your community, because art is lonely. It gets very lonely when you write your books and you get really deep into it. You might uncover things that you don't like, and it feels kind of scary. You need people with you, and not just that. You need people to scale and to put your work out there. That's the reason. He's pretty much why I'm here right now. Like, I know DC Comics gave me an opportunity to write, but he was the one who found me at a gym in Whittier over a stupid Darna print. And he said, hey, you know what? I'm doing this thing. I think I want you to come in on this. And this is the same thing with Ebony. And because of that, I'm going more to the con. And actually that's why I met Emmie. And that's why I met Rachanee, because I met Rachanee at a convention too. And you just continue to build that community. And that's how you not only develop your work and get better at it, but you put it out into the world. Okay, because you're not going to do it alone. Even if you're super talented, you need your people. So do that work. That's going to be, 50% of your success. Right? And that's why we're all here. That's why we did this path.
Okay. So Malolas is going through a reprint right now. We'll have those available soon. Suspicious Activity is available on hottropiks.com and on barnesandnobles.com as well. We just launched Filipina if you want to read more about Philippine mythology and horror. And Maharlika is being worked on as an anime soon. And yeah, I'll share that as well.
money.
Just have Ebony go first.
Oh, okay. You know what? If you have the capacity to follow your passions, you know what? Go for it, because when you're on your deathbed, You want to say, I lived a fulfilled life. So no regrets. Yeah. Yep.
Yes to everything that everyone's said so far. And for longevity, I think one important thing for me is tapping into the why. Why am I doing this? Why do I want to keep doing this? One of my teachers, Diana Castle, puts it as tying your ambition to your mission. And I think that gets me through a lot of reminding myself, what is the point of, of art in general? And to remember that I am a human being, therefore I am contributing something by interpreting these words or whatever it is, providing my own humanity to it is value enough. And so I love finding books that help me tap into my why and to remind me of why and to see the world in a poetic way. In the hard times, I think that can be really hard. But yes, I always love finding books that get me there. So finding things like that, finding your classmates and community members that you connect with, your cohorts that you show up for as well. Not just what can that group do for me, but to make sure that I can also show up. If my friend is producing a short film or something, can I show up for them, and if someone is writing something, can I be there for the table read if they need someone? And they show up for me as well. And how can we keep supporting each other, especially as AAPI or people of color, our communities, especially, I think we really need to support each other. So I think that's huge. Remembering why I'm doing it, because I do love doing it, and I can always change my mind if I decide that it's not for me. I can look for a normal job, but I don't want to. While also finding the ways to make money so that I can sustain myself, whether it's side hustles, where can I find support if I have supportive family, um, friends looking out for friends, whether it's like jobs or whatever it is. So finding things that feed your soul as an artist, I think is important. And the practical parts too. There are financial programs for freelancers that are really helpful. There's something called the Entertainment Community Fund, and they offer free courses, free programs on managing your money as a creative person, because it's not easy when it's not just a 9 to 5. So there are a lot of resources, and tapping into those and connecting with your community and supporting each other, all those things, I would say. Thank you.
And then last but not least, Rachanee, if you want to close out for us, please.
Sure. So I would say just remember you're always planting seeds. You might think like one meeting today, whatever, and you go off your business. I don't even know how many times I've gotten a job or an opportunity because someone's like, I met you a year ago. I remember you from that audition. And you're like, what? So you're always, Hollywood's a lot smaller than you think. Entertainment is a lot smaller than you think. So you're always planting seeds. Speaking of seeds, to keep yourself sane, have a hobby you don't try to monetize. I garden. I am not trying to sell my plants. Instead of constantly refreshing, like, oh my gosh, did my book sell? Did I get a callback? I just go out and do something I'm not trying to make money at. But guys, we have the best job in the world. We get to wake up and create art. Like, that is amazing. We are so lucky to do this. Get out there and do it, guys.
So we do have, we're like in a remaining like minute here, we do have a raffle that's going on, and we're really excited.
Excited, you guys.
I fell asleep in the scene. I was thinking the scene till the end.
Please. Honestly, yeah, this has been a really cool opportunity, guys. So thank you for allowing me to talk to you guys and be within this space. Yeah.
Thank you for all the panelists.
Yeah.
You know your big D. Yeah. Excited to see everyone's work. I got to get my Netflix subscription. I can watch Beef. Do you cry?
Yeah, no. No.
Do you get mad at anybody? Wait, do you speak Tagalog in it?
No, I don't get to. But yeah, I don't know, I'm very calm in it. Like,
Okay.
how I am as a person.
I only saw the
Were you in season 1 also?
No,
Season two.
but season one was so good.
I haven't started it yet, so
Yeah, no, it started. It's wild.
yeah.
It's a wild ride.
So for our raffle, we actually have several books donated by Hot Tropiks that is being raffled off. We have Ebony's book. We have Josefina. We have my book, Suspicious Activity. We also have a print that is signed by Emmie. She signed it on a Saturday, brought an extra one. And we also have one comic book that is from the DC Comics Milestone Initiative, is signed by 4 different artists and writers from the Milestone Initiative program. I guess we're just waiting for the second. There it is.
Maybe customer inviting.
Right.
Wait, you have a random number?
Items in here.
Wait, where's the raffle stuff?
Hey, Harrison,
Inside.
could you bring the raffle stuff in here, please?
Here.
Yeah, music.
I know that song.
Jeopardy? Or is it Jeopardy or Wheel of
Really?
Fortune?
More than that. 1, 2, 3,
All right.
4.
Who do we miss?
Right,
Thank you.
Here, I'll do it.
Wow.
There you go.
Cool.
Who's calling the names?
Robert.
Yeah, just tell me the winner. The hand on that book. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 6 winners, guys. 6 winners. I feel like the sorting hat. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, who's picking?
And we got something ready, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Excuse me, you in the Lakers shirt. What's your name? Max. I knew it was you. How you doing?
I made it came for you, so.
I think this guy's name's Knife.
Yeah. I know.
Maybe
We're going to start with Buck Away. I got that.
All right, first winner.
First up, we have Dr. Light.
We have number 9, that is for Eric.
Aguinaldo.
Yes.
Okay, next up.
Did you sign it?
Yeah, I signed it.
Number 2, that is for
Jonathan.
Yeah.
I go. Yeah, oh, this next up. Oh,
And then we also have Bella, the winner of the.
ooh,
Give me 2 and 1 again. All right, 12.
12 for Julian.
If you want me to draw Jollibee, I'll draw Jollibee.
Now I'm signing now.
I will.
And then
Get over here, man.
how many?
2 more, yeah.
And then next one is going to be on for. Wait. For Andrew.
This is Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, cool. You got a national book award with it. And then last one.
And last winner is for Edwin.
Oh. That's all.
That's everything. Thank you guys for coming.
It was perfect. Great job.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for the Pirates of the Caribbean.
So cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for putting this together. Have a good one, guys. Bye. Thank you for the hosting.
Hi.
Thank you for hosting.
I am very
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Is there a website that you guys are all like on, or do you guys use LinkedIn or something? Or?
You can go on Instagram. I can't. There's a book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. Don't do LinkedIn. Let's boycott LinkedIn. Hey, you be on there? Hey, do you have a marker? I got it. I got it.
You're on.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can put it in.
Oh yeah.
Or it's you.
No.
Look at all the glasses.
It's not that, you know.
So how do you like get started? Like,
Okay.